This video is about a tiny little island in the Caribbean called San Andres Island. It's actually part of Colombia, even though it's closer on the map geographically to Nicaragua, but it is officially a Colombian island. I have been there a couple of times, and yeah, I just wanted to tell you about things I hated about it, things I loved about it, and hopefully you get a chance to go and check it out for yourself. So we're going to start off with the things that I did not like, just because I want to end on a good note, I guess. So let's get right into it. So the first thing that I did not like about San Andres Island was that you have to pay for everything. And when I say everything, I mean like every single thing, like things that you wouldn't normally pay for, especially like coming from New Zealand, for example, where you don't have to pay for like, you know, nature stuff or like scenic stuff, like to go and look at some, you know, bushwalks or any kind of like, some of it maybe like major attractions, but generally not, you know. Whereas like, okay, so in San Andres Island, like I went to go have a look at the mangroves. So they had this like mangrove swamp. It has like a little, you know, like kayak that you can kayak around. They charge you just to go into the mangrove, like not even to go in the kayak, just to go look at the mangroves. They would charge you for. The day that I went, they were like, oh, well, we're about to close, so you can go have a look, but normally we would charge you. And it's like, what? Like, you seriously gonna charge me to look at some mangroves? What? Like, that's crazy to me. Like, in New Zealand, you would never charge someone to look at mangroves. What? Just go look at them, you know? So, and then there was another one that, like, there was, like, a church. I think it was, like, the first, I'll have to check the name. It was, like, the First Baptist or, like, the first church of San Andres or something. And they had this really steep, climb, like you could literally climb steep steps all the way to the top of the church, like the top of the little spire or like pointy thing on the top, and you can like climb up to the top, and it's basically like a sort of 360-degree view of the island, and you can kind of look out and like see the water and like kind of see what it's like. But that to me is another one that I was like, what? You're charging people to go inside a church? Like they were literally charging you just to go in the church. And then they charge you additional to go to climb up the steps to the top of the church. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, you would never charge someone to go in a church in New Zealand. That's ridiculous. It's a church. Like, so, okay, so that's the first one. They charge you for everything. The second quite unfortunate thing is that there's actually a lot of rubbish there. I'm not sure about what the situation is on the island. It seems like it's kind of like, it looks like building stuff, like kind of. So the way that they build their houses is basically out of like concrete blocks that are just like all stuck together and piled up on top of each other. And I guess when they knock them down, they kind of just leave them there in a pile. It was kind of unfortunate, but there's actually, yeah, a lot of rubbish. Like a lot of just like concrete, a lot of like rubble, like concrete rubble. So I'm not sure if that's just like they don't know where to put the rubbish or they don't know what to do with it, but yeah, I found that was quite unfortunate, because other than that, it's such a beautiful island, and then you just keep coming across these like random piles of rubbish. The third thing, which I definitely did not like, is that it's actually really expensive, to the point where it's like, what? Like, okay, so basically, I mean, in relation to somewhere like New Zealand, right? Let me just think for a minute. So the exchange rate there is like $1 New Zealand is about 3,000 pesos. And so, you know, things are obviously much cheaper there, like because of the exchange rate. So they are much cheaper. The Colombian peso is not as high value as the New Zealand dollar. But the thing is that they still charge you as if it's in dollars. So for example, I got there and I really needed to get my hair done, right? And I was like, okay, this is great. I'll do it on the island, because it's like I'll be paying in pesos, so it'll be much cheaper, and I'll just wait till I get there, and I'll wait till I can pay in pesos. So I get there, I went to the hairdresser, and I asked them how much it was to do like, I think it was like, I just asked out of curiosity, like a full set of foils, for example, and they were trying to charge me like 600,000 pesos, which when you think about it is like about $200. That's ridiculous. Okay, so what? Like, they should be charging relative to pesos. They're trying to act like pesos are dollars now. Like, they're not. Like, it's just crazy the way they try and, you know, like, rip tourists off, basically. I mean, they're not going to charge Colombians that amount, so I just found it kind of insulting that they were kind of like, I could get it done for cheaper in New Zealand, you know, and I'm coming here and you're trying to, like, no. Okay, so I was not very impressed about that. The fourth thing that I thought was not very cool about San Andres Island was that, yeah, kind of along the lines of, like, they see foreigners as wealthy, but to the point where, like, they'll try and scam you, which is really not cool. So yeah, that was pretty sad. I ended up, like, I met a guy there on San Andres Island where he was, like, pretending to be all genuine and, like, telling me how much he wanted me to move to the island and be with him, and we kind of kept in touch, and then went back to see him, and basically he just wanted me to pay for everything and went as far as trying to get me to renovate his house. So yeah, so they do try and unfortunately scam you, and they do try and they just basically, they can't see past the fact that you're a wealthy tourist. They can't actually just see beyond that and appreciate you for coming. They just try and get as much money out of you as they can. So that is so sad. And the last thing that I did not like about San Andres Island was that it was over-touristed. When I say over-touristed, some places were ruined because there was too many tourists, and it literally just ruined the vibe of the place. So there's a particular tour that I went on that was called Heinz Kai Aquario, which is like a tiny little island, even smaller than in San Andres, that's kind of off San Andres, and you can kind of take a boat ride over from San Andres, and you're supposed to, like, spend the day there and go snorkeling, and then, like, maybe get a bit of lunch at the restaurant and then come back. So I went there, and it was like, there was, like, I shit you not, like 20 boats that arrived at the same time, and it's not a very big piece of land. It's a tiny piece of land that's getting basically, like, just descended upon by 20 boats. Like, there was literally not enough space to walk. Like, you couldn't walk. Like, it was just like, oh my god, stressful. Like, where do you, like, it was just chaos. It was like, oh my god, where do I put my bag? Where do I sit? Like, I can't even sit down here. Like, how am I supposed to enjoy a day here when I can't even sit down? It was really unfortunate because it kind of ruined it. Like, I didn't want to spend the day there. I was like, oh my god, get me out of here. I stayed for like an hour, and then I just tried to get the boat back early to the mainland so that I could find a more chill beach to, like, spend my day on. So yeah, they really need to have some kind of tourist control there so that it doesn't just get completely ruined, and they can actually, you know, it's just sad. They're just trying to, you know, get as much money as they can without yeah, it's very unfortunate, basically. Moving over to the things that I did like, there was a lot of things that I actually loved about San Andres Island. The first being the heat. Oh, I don't know if you're like, I don't know if you enjoy the heat, but if you do, San Andres is a perfect place for that because it is like 28, 29, 30 degrees every day, like pretty much all day. So I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, sorry, but it's really hot. You're basically like sweating a lot of the time. And you need to just go in, jump in the water. Which leads me to my next point. The second thing I loved about San Andres Island was the clear, warm water. Oh, it's like perfect. Like, it's literally like bright blue, like you're going to the pools, and it's just natural. Like, it's crazy. And yes, it's just like so warm, like a bath water. You can see right to the bottom, you can see fish, it's super clear, it's just beautiful, especially for swimming and bathing. And the next thing that I loved about San Andres Island was the food. Oh my goodness, like the fish there, I don't know how they season it, but it is so perfectly fried and seasoned and yummy. Yummy. Like, it was so good. It was just like, yeah, I used to be vegan actually before I went over there, and there is not a lot to eat if you're vegan. You are gonna starve. So I ended up basically just eating fish again, and it was actually so delicious. Like, I was like dreaming about that fish for so long after I got back. It was so good. I wish I like got a photo of it or something. It was incredible. So yes, be ready for the best fish of your life. Next up is getting around, which you can actually do on a moto taxi. So you don't have to pay for expensive Ubers. There is actually a bus that goes around the island. It takes a really long time, but you can do it. Or most people actually get around on what's called a moto taxi, and you literally just stand on the side of the road and wave down a moto taxi, and they'll just come and pick you up, and they just take you wherever you want to go. And it's like maybe 5,000 pesos, which is like $1.50 New Zealand. So yeah, it's really cheap, and that's basically, and it's so fun as well because you're just zipping around. You don't have to put a helmet on, of course. You just fly around on a motorbike with the wind in your hair, going, just hooning around the island. It's actually really fun. So yeah, so I loved that, being able to take a motorbike everywhere. And the next thing is the exchange rate. Very, very, very helpful, especially if you are coming from a Western country like New Zealand or Australia or US or Canada or anywhere like that, which obviously they've cottoned onto because they're trying to take advantage of it, but it's great for us, which means that things are so cheap. Food is cheap, getting around is cheap, attractions are mostly cheap, and yeah, it's just like really like, you know, the flights there, depending on where you're coming, are obviously quite expensive, but once you get there they are really cheap, so very helpful. And last but not least is the music. So good. I loved it. I just loved hearing like salsa and like Caribbean vibes, and like just, you know, like everywhere you go there's just like some kind of like Latin music playing. So yeah, loved the music. Alright, so that is another video of what I loved and hated about St. Andrews Island. I've got a bunch more to do that I hope you will watch and hopefully learn something from, and yeah, enjoy your travels if you make it over that way. Peace!